strike thing. Let's go back to that because
That's
people don't. We glossed over it.
I did a great segue there, man.
You did.
It's the first time I've ever done
Very
anything
good
in my
segue.
life.
The 12-6 elbow strike, was it because, this is what I've always said, and I believe you're the one who told me this, that when the commissions were talking about techniques, they had seen like those karate guys on ESPN at 1 o'clock in the morning breaking bricks with their elbows. And they're like, there's no way you could allow that strike because that strike would be too deadly. Was that what happened?
Close.
Close.
When we talk about commissions, there was only a couple of commissions at the writing of the unified rules as far as when we came, to get a degree. That was back in April of 2001. All right. And New Jersey, I started talking about the UFC was not the first, show to go there, but New Jersey, after they had the IFC and then the UFC, and then they had a couple other small shows, Ring of Fire starts to come in, and everyone has their own rules. The UFC had their own rules. IFC had their own rules. Ring of Fire wants to do their own rules, and New Jersey was like, we can't have these people coming in and giving us what their rules are. If we're going to do this as a sport, we're going to do this under our rules. And, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to bring people together to create those rules, people that, supposedly know who they really invited other than, I think you had the Mohegan Sun as far as the tribal commission come down. They were part of it. New Jersey as a commission, and you had Mark Ratner on a conference call. He was not there. But it was promoters.
This is before Ratner worked for the UFC.
This is long before.
Mark is working for the Nevada State Athletic Commission.
Mark is working for the Nevada State Athletic Commission. He's the executive director. And they bring in all of these promoters. And the promoters were King of the Cage, Terry Treblecock. You had Dana White, Lorenzo Fertitta, John McCarthy, Joe Silva, and Jeff Blatnick from the UFC. You had people from Pride, Yuki Kondo and Kanda or whatever, and Hideki, I can't remember his name. And you had Paul Smith. You had a couple, but that was it. That was the people there. And the people that were really talking the most was me and a doctor named Dom Coletta from New Jersey. He was brought in as the medical advisor for the state of New Jersey. And when it came to elbows, they tried to get rid of elbows. That was their big thing. And I was sitting there trying to combat what they were saying, because even in New Jersey at the time they had Muay Thai, and so they had elbows that were allowed in this form. I said, look at, and Jeff and I had put together a CD at the time. You had CDs.
CD-ROM.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Make it on a computer.
And it was because I knew they were going to attack throws, because that was what made Larry Hazard. You had Tito Ortiz fought Evan Tanner, and he picks him up in a body lock, and he brings him down, and he knocks him out. And Larry Hazard went, like, his heart started going. He's like, oh, we don't like that. And so I knew they were going to attack throws. And so I with Jeff, put together all of these throws from the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. Here's all your throws from judo. Here's all your throws from Greco-Roman. And God bless Karelin, because he picks people up and drops them on their head, and it's legal. Okay? And I had all these throws from freestyle wrestling, Greco-Roman wrestling, judo, with all of these Olympic athletes picking somebody up and them falling on their head, being tossed on their head. And that's what saved the throws. And what we came up with was, look, what we don't want is someone being able to control another human being and purposely make a tent spike out of them and try to drive them down onto the mat on top of their heads.
A pile driver.
Exactly. So
like Bob Sapp did to Minotauro
in Pride, but that's a different set of rules.
Fucked his neck up for a long time.
Yes. And that's,
maybe forever.
That was what we were looking at. And so that's how we came up with, no spiking. And spiking, I knew what it was because I worked out the language there. Because I was sitting there saying, well, hold on, time out. I'm the one that's got to come up and say, this is legal, this is not. So we do this. If someone takes, and a guy shoots a lazy double, he brings his head to the center, picks him up, his legs either go straight up or his legs are out like this, and you purposely hold him there and try to drive him straight down. That's a spike. That's illegal. If I take and I pick you up as a suplex and I bring you up over the top, I can bring you down as long as there is an arc to it. Any arc makes the throw legal. So Rampage Jackson picks up Ryan Bader and spins him and brings him down straight on his head. Legal. And it makes it quick and easy for me as the referee. I see the arc, it's legal. I don't see an arc and I see him holding him and bring him straight down, now I know it's illegal. And so I was trying to make things as easy as I could. When it came to the elbows, what they were trying to do was take away all elbows. And I go, look, you have elbows in Muay Thai. Elbows, every time you take something away, you are changing the sport and making it to where it's harder to actually have action. Because you take away elbows, I grab wrist, and if I'm good at grabbing wrist, I can hold wrist for a while, and I can't do anything. I've got to pull my hand out, where if you grab my wrist and I'm John Jones and I take and I roll that elbow over and boom and bring it down, you let go of my wrist because you're being attacked. And so they looked at it and said, and the Tom Coletta, being the doctor, said, he goes, look it, yeah, I understand what he's saying. He said, I have a problem with one. And it came from Gan McGee versus a guy named Brad Gabriel from the IFC, the very first show they had. Gan McGee, you remember, 6'11", at the time in this show, about 335 pounds. And he's fighting a guy named Brad Gabriel, who's 6'1", 210, 215 pounds. And Brad Gabriel is trying to get a hold of Gan just to survive. And Gan is taking his arm, and he's boom, 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 and he's bringing it straight down on top of Brad Gabriel's head. And then he gets his back, and he does the same thing, like the old Brazilian style of bringing shots to the back of the head. And he goes, I can't have that. He said, I've seen them break big blocks of ice like that. That's a dangerous elbow. We can't have that. And I started to combat it, and Lorenzo Fertitta looks at me and goes, John, let it go. It's stupid.
Wow.
And I go, yes, sir, boss. And I backed away from it. And so that became.
So that's the 12-6 elbow.
That's the 12-6 elbow. And the whole thing with the whole positioning of it, 12-6, I came up with that there saying, all right, let me just make this clear. So we're saying that my hand comes straight up and straight down. That's what's illegal. So 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock. But if I'm in side control and I bring my arm like this, we're okay with it. And they go, yes.
And 1 to 7's okay?
1 to 7, 11:30 to all that stuff.
Sort of. 11:30's pushing it.
You're pushing it, but and the problem was, see, I was there, I understood everything, and I came out and started teaching classes and stuff. And if you listened to me, you knew what it was. But other than that, you're getting, there's a paper written, and so you're reading the paper, and it says no downward elbow strikes, and that's not what the rule was.
Right.
So we actually had, season 2 of The Ultimate Fighter, Joe Stevenson is going to end up, he's in the semifinals. I had done his earlier match. He had fought Marcus Davis. And I went over the rules with him. And so when we talk about going over rules with fighters, there's a lot that I say. People think that, no, don't pull hair, don't do that. You don't do that. But I'd gone over things and I explained to him, yes, because he asked me, he says, in the guard, can I do this elbow? Absolutely.
From the guard.
You can do it from the guard.
Because you're doing it from 6 to 12.
Exactly. Well, you're doing it, it's 9 to 3, 3 to 9, whatever. Mm-hmm. You're on your back.
Right.
And he goes and he's going to fight in the semifinals, and he's got Herb Dean as his referee. And Herb tells him, no, you can't do that. And he goes, but John McCarthy says I can do it. And he goes, no, you can't do that. And so I got, and this is the problem with MMA as we have it. Herb says no. Joe comes out to me and says, hey, you told me that I could do this. I said, absolutely you can. And he goes, Herb Dean just said I can't. I go, I'll take care of it. And I go to Herb and I said, hey, did you tell Joe Stevenson that he can't do this elbow strike? He goes, yeah. He goes, that's illegal. You can't do that. I go, Joe. I said, I'm sorry, Herb. I go, what do you mean it's illegal? I go, it's 12 to 6. I go, his hand's not coming straight up and straight down. And he goes, yeah, John. He goes, that's if the clock's on the wall. But if you're on your back and your clock's on the ceiling, he goes, that's 12 to 6.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, this is what happens. And I looked at him and I said, Herb, when in the fuck have you ever seen a clock on a ceiling? And he goes, well, I haven't, but it makes sense. And you have these officials.
But it's not enhanced by gravity.
Hello. But it's even with gravity.
6. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It's
no matter
right
what.
now,
Why
I can
hasn't
tell
it
you.
been changed?
Because of doctors and fear. No one wants to be the one to change it. Look at all the controversy we had when we changed just a little bit that we've changed so far. And that was one of the things we wanted to change.
The hand touch.
We had it. Yeah, and I'll talk about that if you want. But we had it in there, and the doctors for the ABC said, nope, we don't want to touch that. So right now I can tell you.
What was their rationale?
Their rationale is they don't understand it, and they're afraid to say They look at the sport and they look at it from a different view than you and I as people that are a part of it, you and I as fans, any of that. They look at it from, well, right now, we've been doing this for, we'll say, 20 years, 15 years, wherever you're at, how long they've been doing it. And we haven't had a problem having that as being illegal. So as soon as we bring it into, okay, now it's legal, and we have a fighter that supposedly gets hurt by it, and now they come after us saying, well, before it was illegal, you guys made it legal, that's why I got hurt. And that's what they're trying to avoid. They're looking at litigation, and they're looking at saying, you know what, why bring that in? There's no point.
It's so frustrating.
Totally.
That's a very frustrating
But right now, I will tell you, the University of Auburn is doing a study for us about elbows and the power behind each different type that we're having them do, being that one up and down. So I used to do things with sports science, and they've already done that test for me. So I know what it is.
Right.
But we'll have a university having a test, and so now it's going to come out that elbow strikes, all these elbow strikes that are allowed are all much more powerful than that elbow strike.
Well, not only that, but forget about power, because you could take whatever Dominic Cruz's most powerful technique and then use Francis Ngannou's jab. So are we just saying that you can't have power? Because that doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, no, because see, that's what the whole thing is with that elbow strike.
Right.
It's so powerful.
But what about a fucking
kick? It's
kick?
not. Exactly.
It's nothing compared to like a wheel kick or a spinning back kick.
I try to get people to understand, being a hunter, you have an idea of ballistics. Okay. And it's like, and people get in this whole thing about, girls and guys and fighting and stuff. And I try to tell them, look you cannot expect Demetrius Johnson to have the power of a Francis Ngannou.
Or Stipe Miocic.
Or Stipe Miocic. Or Daniel Cormier. Or let's go down lower, George St. Pierre.
Giant, heavy
He
dudes.
has 125 pounds. We'll say the night that he's fighting, 135, 139 pounds of weight behind it. He is a 22 caliber.
Right.
Okay, I'm not saying he can't hurt you, but he's not going to drop you because he just doesn't have that
his
power.
Size.
And you have certain certain components that are coming into play because
like the Joseph Benavidez fight.
Look at what Joseph was doing forward him, brings it more power based upon movement of bodies.
Right.
He can drop somebody.
Precision,
but
timing.
He can drop somebody with a kick because there's more weight and more power behind it. He can drop somebody with a knee. But when we look at lighter weight fighters, we're going to get people, human beings are put together basically the same, okay? Obviously, this guy can take a shot, this guy can't. Okay, that's out there. But if you're a fighter and you get used to accepting damage, accepting punishment, you can accept a lot of things to a certain point where that person's speed and power come together to create a velocity that will put anybody out. And that just comes with strength and weight and size. Because the 22 caliber bullet is not like the 45 caliber bullet.
Yeah. And no matter who the athlete is, the downward elbow is not going to be the most powerful strike in their arsenal unless they're just some fucking downward elbow wizard. And there might be a few of those guys out there. I mean, it's in the Thai world, there might be some guy who does one of those tomahawk elbows that just has a vicious one, but for those guys, there's few and far between.
So tell me how that elbow is going to be stronger than a guy with the rolling thunder kick with his heel hitting someone in the top.
It's not going to be. Or Edson Barboza wheel kick.
Hello,
yeah,
man.
It's just,